So some of the big things that are floating around right now are a lot of the rumors of the supposed future Primark releases for Warhammer 40,000's 8th edition. With the rise of Roboute Guilliman and with Mortarion, as well as the old One-Eye himself that I can't think of the name of, the Crimson King, Magnus the Red, there it is. We're poised to see a lot more Primarchs come back into the fold. There are a good deal of Primarchs that are gone or dead in some way or another. I mean, if you take a look at Sanguinius is out of the picture, quote unquote, forever, but I wouldn't put it past Games Workshop trying to somehow write him back in, or Horus, whose soul was shattered by the Emperor. But again, these things are, it's semantics. But the big rumor right now is of 4 big Primarchs coming back into the fold, re-entering Warhammer 40,000 8th edition. And that's Fulgrim, Lionel Johnson, Angron, and Leman Russ. So today let's talk about those 4 Primarchs real quick. This kind of falls in hand with the Primarch series that we've been doing and how we've already really actually fleshed out Lionel Johnson, and we've fleshed out Mortarion, we've fleshed out Magnus, and then we just recently did Vulcan. So, this is some of the other bigger, more popular Primarchs, such as Fulgrim, Angron, and Leman Russ. Oh, he's so hot and so bitter. Leman Russ. How they're a lot more of the more popular Primarchs, not because the Primarch themselves is popular, but because the army themselves is so popular. Some of the big sources, and a lot of my sources coming from spikybits.com, it's kind of where I go for the most part in the wee hours of the night when I'm just kind of like searching through crap. But they've kind of released their big rumor speculation kind of thread about Warhammer 40,000. And again, guys, take all this with a super grain of salt. Like, this shouldn't be credence at all, but there are some of these rumors that are always a little right, and that's kind of the thing that kind of colors rumors, right? Like, well, I was right about them predicting a new Primarch would come out. I wasn't right about the Primarch I guessed, but still, I was kind of like 50-50. So again, take this with a grain of salt. I think it's more my fantasy more than it is an actual reality, but the big 4 that again are predicted are Fulgrim, Lionel, Angron, and Leman Russ. And we know all 4 of these Primarchs to be very much alive. Actually, in the Warhammer 40,000 Death Angels 8th edition book, the final secret it talks about. We talked about Lionel Johnson and how the Dark Angels have a series of secrets, and the closer you get to Chapter Master, the more secrets that you learn about the chapter. But there's one secret that, of course, the Chapter Master himself doesn't even know, and that is that Lionel Johnson is actually still alive, deep within the rock, the large Space Marine monastery, fortress monastery of the Dark Angels. And in the 8th edition book, it outright says that he has long since healed. So he's up and kicking, just kind of chilling it with the Watchers in the Dark, the little tiny Jawas of the 40k universe. And he's waiting for the right time to come and help his sons of Caliban. So obviously he's in a very much kicking, very alive situation, and I'll be honest, I thought he was coming with the Dark Angels book. I figured Dark Angels book, they're going to plop that down and boom, Lionel Johnson comes out of the woodwork. And they don't, from what I understand, from what I remember, aside from Roboute Guilliman, the Primarchs are released with a book. The Magnus the Red is released with the Thousand Suns book that came out during the Gathering Storm series. And we had that big book that landed, and we had all the new Thousand Suns models, and the new Thousand Suns rules, and then, Maggie himself. And Roboute Guilliman had his own rules outside of that because the Space Marine Codex had already launched, but they launched a new codex a handful of months after that include Roboute Guilliman. So I'm surprised to see a Dark Angels Codex having come out and not having had Lionel Johnson launch alongside it. So the rumor is that, and this was actually a rumor back in November and back in December of Angron especially. Angron and Lionel were the 2 biggest ones. And then it looks like Leman Russ and Fulgrim have joined the fold here. But Angron was supposed to come out, Lionel Johnson was supposed to come out at the beginning of this year, with Angron coming out later in 2018. So maybe this is all part of the same release schedule, and people are starting to piece together bits and pieces again as they hear more and more. But we can take a look even at Angron himself. Angron has come up with multiple times in the lore since 30k, since Warhammer 30k, which is Horus Heresy. He actually came back as this gigantic demon prince that the entirety of a Grey Knights chapter had to help put down, and was almost killed to a man, and was just barely able to banish him from the world. And he is supposed to be, and in the rumors, he's supposed to be monstrous. He's going to be an actual huge model, and he has ascended to a Daemon Primarch of Khorne, and we know him to be just this really like disgusting looking creature here. We'll flash a quick picture of him up, but he's got like, you know, these dreads, which are his butcher's nails that slowly drive into his cerebral cortex and kind of amping up his aggression. We'll talk about that more in the Angron video itself, but we know a lot about him in the sense that he lives in a world of slaughter, and he comes to and fro. He's actually probably one of the more active Primarchs. I mean, you look at Perturabo. Perturabo just like fucked off for a long time and is on his little iron island, doesn't give a crap about you. But Angron has actually come into the Imperial space and done a lot of raiding, a lot of killing, just the same thing as Magnus has, and how Mephisto has, or I'm sorry, not Mephisto, Mortarion has. And it's interesting because if we see Angron, we're also going to be seeing, according to these rumors, we'll be seeing some new Khorne units. New Khorne in general was just the term it says. Angron and new Khorne will be coming too, although maybe next year Angron is going to be huge. That's not huge. That's, again, huge in magnitude, not huge as in it's going to be a huge time. But important there because the Khorne Berserker models, holy crap. That's a 3rd or 4th edition model, and I bought my first models when I was like, oh fuck, like 12, 13. I remember when I first decided to make a Chaos Army, I bought Khorne Berserkers, and it's been the same models ever since. The models are just fine, but now with the level of model detail that they get on these things, we can get some pretty rad looking Khorne Berserker models, so I'm really, really, really excited about that. Fulgrim's pretty fancy here. The Noise Marines and the Emperor's Children in general have been begging for some form of redo, some form of bringing up to date, bringing into the modern age. They have very, very, very limited model range. It's only just one unit of Noise Marines. They have very, very scant representation throughout the entirety of the Chaos model line. So it would make a lot of sense that we finally kind of see a fleshed out Slaanesh army and a fleshed out Khorne army in Fulgrim and in Angron, because we already have Mortarion and Magnus who bring your Tzeentch and your Nurgle to the board. So we're finally going to get those good flesh outs of those two respective gods and their Daemon Primarchs. So it'll be very interesting to see Fulgrim, because Fulgrim's going to have quite the bone to pick with Bobby G, because they originally in the lore, Rabuk Yemin was stabbed in the neck by Fulgrim after the Horus Heresy, and he was given like a poison, or I think it was like he cut his throat, that was it. And he was put into stasis, and it was while in stasis that Rabuk Yemin was said to be dead, but they could see that the wound started, people swear that the wound started to slowly heal itself. That's the kind of the mystique behind Rabuk Yemin. I mean, Yemin was supposed to be just outright dead, so that's another thing of them, let's just use the lore, twist the lore, and boop, zap, Bobby G's back alive. So that's why I say take Horus and Sanguinius being dead with a grain of salt. Fabius Bile actually cloned Horus way back in the day, so again, grain of salt here. Excuse me. So our last little boy on the list, little chap, is Leman Russ himself. So Leman Russ is the Space Viking Thane of the year, right? He's one of everyone's favorite Primarchs. He's probably, I would say, next to Sanguinius and Horus, the most popular and the most iconic Space Marine and Primarch. I mean, my very first Space Marines I ever played were Space Wolves, and that's true for a lot of people, because the Space Wolves stand out amongst the other Space Marines, because if they don't have really cool wings, then they have really cool robes. They don't have really cool robes, they're just covered in wolf pelts. So, you know, aside from those Smurfs, you've got your Dark Angels, your Blood Angels, and your Space Wolves. Those were the three iconic ones, but the Space Wolves always seem to stand out above and far and beyond, because everyone wants to be Space Vikings. So with the new Space Wolves Codex, we might see a Leman Russ. And from the big rumor list here, and again, this rumor is from Frater Domus on Bolter and Chainsword, a pretty popular forum that I actually frequent. And in it, it talks about Russ is returning. Old Man Russ looks a bit like Odin, and he will possibly have two forms like Marathi does in Age of Sigmar. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Leman Russ is alive and well in the 40k universe, or 42nd, whatever the hell K 8th edition takes place in. He's alive and well. He was last seen at this big feast hall, and he kind of gets up and goes, no, and leaves and walks out. And he goes into the Eye of Terror, and he supposedly takes a Space Marine chapter with him and kind of has this big monologue saying, "I'll come back for the final battle at the end times, at the Wolf times," is what it's called. So, are we approaching the end of Warhammer 40,000? No, not at all. This is the best that Games Workshop has been doing in years, and it's only gotten better each year subsequently for the past 3 or 4. So, Games Workshop ain't going nowhere soon. But we can finally get Primarchs back into the fold. That's Games Workshop started Warhammer 40,000, I think, back in 1987 or 88, right when I was born. And with that, I think Rogue Trader is the very first iteration of it all. And I think since then, people have always wondered, what do the Primarchs look like? What are the Primarchs? What are they? And the Horus Heresy books are a great way to see them. The visions of the Horus Heresy are a great way to see them. But now we're going to finally be able to see them on the tabletop like we have been in the past year with some of the other Primarchs that have come out so far. So I'm really stoked to hopefully see Leman Russ on the battlefield, especially like an old man Leman Russ, like an Anthony Hopkins, like Odin-esque one. That'd be really kind of cool in a lot of ways, because we know that the Primarchs aren't, eternal. They're not perpetuals like Vulcan is. And that's another one I'm excited for. But I'm really excited to see what we get with a lot of these Primarchs. One of the other big rumors surrounding a lot of this is that there'll be a new Black Legion will be in the boxed set with Space Wolves. So that'll be a really, really awesome one as well. So Black Legions and Space Wolves, just in the same way that we were just now getting Necrons and Adeptus Mechanicus together. So they kind of like to release these new box sets here and there throughout the lifetime of a edition, and it's a really great way to jump into some of the newer armies and jump onto some of the newer rules, because they usually update those rule books. But at the same time, you get exclusive models in those editions, so I'm very excited to see a possible special edition Space Wolves or well, I guess in this case, new Black Legion, which is, again, I guess my statement I was about to say is kind of wrong, but the Sons of Horus, the Luna Wolves in the Horus Heresy kind of lineage here become the Sons of Horus, and then they become the Black Legion. The Black Legion stops becoming exclusively a Sons of Horus, like kind of like Forsaken Legion. They took the color black on as like a mark of shame, and eventually, at this point in the history, the Black Legion is encompassing any Space Marine or Renegade Space Marine who wants to join into it. It's kind of like a, hey, y'all want to follow this guy? This is Abaddon the Despoiler, who will also be getting a supposed new model as well. So this is and I guess a new Wolves character as well too. So those are some goodies. So again, guys, take a lot of this with a grain of salt. Have some fun with it. Stir up your imagination. Don't go, writing your Christmas list down upon new Angron here. That'd be kind of cool. Christmas. What a better way to celebrate Christmas with the Lord of Slaughter himself, Angron. But again, guys, have some fun with these rumors. Kind of kick them around in your mind. Kind of speculate what these rules and stuff might be like. I'm gonna flash up on the screen here some of the rules that Spiky Bix actually posted way back in November and December about a possible Lionel Johnson return. They're saying some pretty cool attributes here. He'd have his 2 up weapon skill, 2 up ballistic skills, strength 6, toughness 6, 9 wounds, 7 attacks, 2 up save. He'd have some other little abilities here like Hope Melee, Despair, Master the First, Armor of the Order, Blade Master, Master Strategist, I Primarch. That cannot be a rule. I Primarch can't be it. But we'll kind of see how this pans out here. Again, I'm really excited, but let's just kind of see how this all plays out. Like I said, we know that all of these guys are in pretty good places in the lore. Cypher has really kind of stepped up in the Gathering Storm series, so he's probably going to have a pretty heavy hand to play in Lionel Johnson's future as well. But thanks for watching today, guys. I'm going to start going into a little bit more of the tabletop releases and stuff like that. Not a ton of it, but I think a lot of this stuff is usually pertinent to what we're talking about. And I think since we're talking about so many Primarchs right now, this is a really cool rumor, especially for those of you that do watch the channel and do really plug into the hobby yourselves. This is a really cool way to get some information that's pertinent to what we're talking about. But thanks for watching here today, guys. If you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and sub up or comment below. Let me know if I'm full of shit or not so much. Who knows? But thanks for watching. Have a good one and take care.